Welcome to AboutFACE Theatre presents 5 Questions With, and today's guest, actor April Matthis. April is a 2-time OBIE Award-winning actor whose extensive theatre credits include her recent starring role in Toni Stone for Roundabout, and work at Off-Broadway theatres such as Playwrights Horizons, The Public, Lincoln Center Theatre, New York Theatre Workshop, Soho Rep, and Elevator Repair Service, where she's a company member, as well as work regionally at theatres such as Yale Rep and Actors Theatre of Louisville. Her recent screen credits include the feature Fugitive Dreams and roles on TV shows such as The Good Fight and New Amsterdam. April, you're very welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So glad to have you. So April, the first question is just what experience or play first got you into theater?
Okay, so I took this performance studies class in college. I had never taken any formal acting classes, but I always, liked improv and was interested in acting. I was an English major. And so I took this class called Actual Lives that was cross-referenced with women's studies, performance studies, and it was taught by this deaf queer artist, Terry Galloway. And it was really just eye-opening as far as like the world of performance. I think like the idea, particularly through performance art, that like anything is performance, that we perform versions of ourselves all the time. And so from that, I kind of came out of my shell a little bit and was encouraged to audition for community theater in Austin, Texas. And so I auditioned for this play called, well, it was a stage adaptation of A Tale of Two Cities. And so I wrote 2 contrasting monologues because that's what they asked for the audition, like something comedic and dramatic. And I wrote it myself, and I was cast as Bloodthirsty Man. That was my first role in theater.
Can't top that.
Amazing. And you actually, your instinct was to write those monologues rather than to go look for something.
I didn't know, and what I was told was to make up theater credits for a resume, and they said, don't put anything in Austin because people will know that you're lying. So I made up theater companies from like my hometown in this small town called Texarkana, Texas, and I made up shows. I didn't know anything about theater, really. Wow. Like maybe I knew like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and like, Raise It in the Sun. But other than that, I didn't know much about theater, so I wouldn't know what plays to go looking for. And so that's what I did.
And how did that then lead April to getting into theater professionally?
Well, I worked in Austin for about a year and worked in different theater companies there. I worked with this group, Salvage Vanguard Theater. I worked with the Rude Mechanicals there. I worked at Zachary Scott Theater, which was the only equity house at the time. And so I actually had a friend whose play I had done, Ruth Margraf. Her partner at the time had a sublet in New York. And so that was how I was able to get a foothold in New York. And I had started by doing readings of plays at New Dramatists, which is a great playwright development center for playwrights. I started hanging around New Dramatists, doing a lot of readings and workshops. And I met someone at a Christmas party or the New Dramatist holiday party who had seen me do a reading there and gave me a script, asked me to audition for a play at Actors Theatre of Louisville. It was Kirsten Greenwich's Sans Culotte in the Promised Land. And that was my first equity gig. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the journey.
Okay, so April, so you're talking about the influence of A Tale of Two Cities on your career, but what's a great play that you love and why?
I thought about this when you asked great play, like something that I think is great or something that is, yeah, okay, so I'm going to go with that. One of my favorite plays on the planet is God's Ear by Jenny Schwartz. She's this fantastic playwright based in New York. And she's what people might call a language playwright. I did another production of hers at Playwrights Horizons back in 2015, I believe it was, called Iowa, which is a musical. But this play was the first thing I had seen of hers. And it was about a couple who had lost a child. And as a result, their communication has broken down to the point where they can only speak in cliches and maxims. And so, like, the opening monologue from the mother is just a litany of cliches, like, seize the day, go for it, you know, all's well that ends well, or these aren't the exact lines, do what you can, you know, and I was devastated. Like within the first 5 minutes, I was sobbing. No play has done that for me since, before or since. There was just something about like, yeah, how words fail us. And she did that with the words that we use all the time. Jenny Schwartz, yeah.
Right. Check that out.
Yeah. I like to be introduced to new things. So can you tell us about a time in your theater life where, you know, something didn't turn out how you expected it to?
Okay. It's funny, I was thinking about this because there's like so many things turned out how I expected it to. But it's funny because we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. And I was at the time working on a play called Annabella Ema by this playwright, Lisa D'Amour. And it was being directed by Katie Pearl. And they were from Austin, and I didn't know them at the same time that I was in Austin. Like, I think they had left and moved to New York before I had gotten to New York. And so we met, and I was playing, like, the roles are numbered 1, 2, and 3. So there's like a mother and a daughter, and then the daughter's friend that she's made out of mud called Annabella Ema. And the daughter's name is Annabella. And I think I was cast as Annabella, but it was a really hard work. And I think the way that we were doing it was like, we were all sitting at, in front of like TV trays, and we had these different instruments that we would use to make sound like our own Foley. And it was highly choreographed, and there was like all this music to learn. And it was really daunting and hard. And I remember like, we hadn't really gotten to where we wanted to stage-wise yet. And we were going to have this big fundraiser on September 12th was the big plan for the fundraiser. Okay. And of course, September 11th came, and that did not happen. And so we tried to figure out what we're going to do. And so we came back when we were allowed to start, you know, gathering again and take the subways, because I was in New Jersey at the time, and there was no way to get into the city the very next day. So I think we tried to rehearse for like another couple of weeks. And I remember one of the actors who played number 3, like the imaginary friend made out of mud, she was really struggling. And she stopped herself and she goes, "I'm not weak like that." And, you know, for me, I'll always remember it was just like everybody was so raw and everybody was trying to like get back to normal and do stuff. And, you know, like there was just a lot going on. And so needless to say, like the production did not happen. Like there are a lot of things that were closing. And, you know, it was funny because I was like, how is this going to work? And then it ended up not working. But what is interesting is like, I don't know, however many years later, maybe like 5 or 6 years later, they decided to come back to it with a different production. And that time I played the imaginary friend, the mud girl, Annabella Ema. And that was the production that was supposed to happen. And apparently not the one that happened like all those years ago. So that's like a unexpected story that had a actually pretty amazing ending.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's amazing that you get to come back to it, you know. So
and like a different role, which like, you know, after that role, there was a part in it where I did an impression of Frankenstein's monster, and it was like a really huge deal, like in the theater community that I was a part of. And like I remember I went to one audition and they hadn't gotten to see the show, but they were like, will you just do the Frankenstein part? And so I was like, take the matches, Irene. You know, like, which is not even, who knows if that's anywhere near like what
of course.
This is this thing that like people were like, we love that part when you do Frankenstein. But
who knew? You never know that starting off. That's brilliant.
Okay, so April, so you've already had an amazing career in the theater, playing these great roles, these great theaters. So what keeps you coming back to the theater? What moves you? What excites you about theater?
What excites me about theater is the immediacy of like the relationship between you and the text and your scene partner and the audience. Like I always feel like I have no idea what the play is until we do it in front of people. And the people, like long after we've stopped laughing at something, the first time an audience hears it and laughs, it's like, that is funny, yes. And they go, then it's like, oh yes, this is a reveal. Oh yes, I've been playing the ending because I've spent so much time with it in the room. But like there's the alchemy of that relationship, and it's different every night. You know, you can just feel the energy of an audience, like if they're really like quiet and listening, if they're like not that interested, if they're like there to have a good time and they're just gonna laugh at everything. If they're a little liquored up, you know, like it's all different vibes. And you can't duplicate it and you can't put it in a bottle. You can try to record it, but it won't be the same as being there. You can write a review about it, but that's one person sitting in one seat with everything they brought to the theater that day, but nothing is like being there. And that's the live ephemeral aspect of it. And, just like, I always think like, if they could hook us up to like a machine that would analyze our brain waves while we're on stage, like what would that reveal? Just like all the billions of thoughts that are going on of like, okay, where's the hat? Okay, she didn't bring the hat. All right, that's okay. Here's this line. Oh, that got a laugh. That's never gotten a laugh before. All right, now this reminds me of my grandmother for some reason. Okay, what? Oh, I forgot the next line. Oh, like all of that is happening at once. And I can't think of other interactions where you're having a million thoughts at once while you're doing something and nobody knows and it's constantly changing. Like there's no other place like that. It's like different dimensions of thought and consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's yeah, I'm like, love that. So do you feel like there's a skill from theater that you have found, from your theater life that you have found useful in the rest of your life, in your non-theater day-to-day life?
It's interesting because I think I'm naturally an inherently shy, introverted person. And but I do have a relationship to an audience, and I know kind of how to read a room generally. And I find that that's useful in spaces that are not theatrical. Like if I'm at an event for my son's school and I have to talk to parents that have a totally different lifestyle and background than I do, or if I'm, like networking somewhere, or dealing with different family members, at a gathering. It's just something about like being able to navigate social spaces that I think is something that I only got from theater. And being able to find the tells of like, oh, that person just lied, or that person seems nervous, or they don't want to talk about that, or this person started part of the conversation and conversation got hijacked, and I want to pick back up to that person because I can tell that they're like shrinking because they didn't get to make their point, like all that kind of stuff, I think is, things I use all the time in my life outside of the theater.
Yeah, it's a special awareness, isn't it? Of others, and yeah.
Well, April, this has been so brilliant. Thanks so much. Just a quick bonus question. Can we ask you anything about what you're working on at the moment?
Well, today I'm going to get on the Amtrak and go to Philadelphia for the Philadelphia Fringe Festival. Elevator Repair Service is debuting our piece, Baldwin Buckley at Cambridge, and it's about the 1964, I want to say, debate at Cambridge between James Baldwin and William F. Buckley. And I come in as kind of like an epilogue or coda as Lorraine Hansberry, James Baldwin's good friend and fellow intellectual. And Lorraine Hansberry had actually died earlier that year, a few months before this debate took place. And so we just wanted to, because we have, I think particularly these days, but always, the words of James Baldwin as far as like racism in America and all over the world. His brilliant mind and very clear thoughts and writing on it are just evergreen and like very memeable, but there's also like the human being side of him. And we just wanted to end with a little like breath of like him being human and hanging out with his friend afterwards. So, that's what's up this week. We're going to premiere it the 9th, 10th, and 11th, I believe, of this month's at the Philly Fringe Festival. And then we'll go work on it some more and do it in some other places to be announced. But that's what I got going on right this second.
Yeah, excellent. Ooh, sounds great. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was lovely. And I've been watching the other ones now. So I'm like, ooh,
who's next? Great. And thank you to you, the audience, too, for joining us. If you enjoyed the interview, please like below and follow AboutFACE and share, because we believe theater makes life better. See you next time on About Face Theatre Presents 5 Questions With.
If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and share. Thanks for watching.